Well, hello there. Thanks for joining us. Today's Thursday, February 18th, 2021. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? You enjoying you know, I'm enjoy. I enjoy the wrong word. I actually feel guilty over how nice the weather is today.
You're right. Yes. Yes, because we're
Yeah,
both from, the South. You lived in Texas for years. I'm from Tennessee, and it's just a frigid hellscape back home. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean because every time I've checked in or talked to my people back home, my sister, me, mom, my best friend, whatever, they'll just like being human beings, they'll be like, like what's the weather like out there? And I got to be like, oh, well, I mean the wind's been blowing pretty hard, so that's rough on us. But otherwise, 68 and sunny. It's still
yeah,
paradise. I feel like I feel like a dick
yeah.
just answering the question. I feel guilty just for that, for the weather being what it is out here.
I talked to my mom the other day, and she was talking about how she uses a wood stove to heat to help to accentuate the heat pump. Help out
Yeah.
with it, keep costs down. And it's like talking about my nephew bringing up firewood, and like the chimney got clogged, and smoke filled up the house. And I'm like, yeah, I went to the park today. It was nice.
Yeah.
my
Right. Yeah.
my sister, she's in Central Virginia too. She was posting on Facebook. Social media adds to all kinds of survivor's guilt, right? It also adds to like jealousy when you see all the shit rich people are up to. But my sister's like posting recipe questions, like what's a good thing to cook when you don't have any electricity for 4 days and it's 25 degrees out. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, like a house pet over radiator. Things shit's sweet, sweet here. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, you said
yeah,
before the show, like, I mean, we can't control the weather. We just have to, we
yeah.
just report it, Mark. That's all.
Yeah. So
So
I love you, Lauren. Stay safe. Get the power
yeah,
back.
yeah. So real quick, so we still don't know what happened. This has happened before, but only a couple times. But on the previous episode, we were for some reason it wasn't transmitting or streaming to YouTube well or at all. We don't know why. It's not the first time it's happened, but I think we're doing okay tonight. But I just wanted to acknowledge that and say, sorry about that. We didn't do anything different on our end. Sometimes things just fuck up. You know how we are. It's happened to us a bunch over here.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're okay moving forward. So
It's a wild world when all of us make our living on the internet and maybe three of us know how it works. So
yeah, right. So, with that said, let's get into the show. With us, as always, producer Matt doing his thing. This is Evening Skews. Now, listen, let's just say it up top. We all know tonight's Daily Dumbass, of course, is noted Texas human skin wearing reptilian Senator Ted Cruz, who tried to start spring break a little early this week and head to Cancun in the midst of the biggest crisis his state has faced in a long time. But the thing is, we believe that Ted Cruz's dumbassery is so profound and pronounced, and the context of it is such that he deserves more than just the daily dumbass honorific up top. He's at least the dumbass of the year so far, maybe the dumbass of the century. Who's to say? We'll talk about it later. That's my point. We're going to get into it in further detail a little bit later on. So we're breaking with tradition and covering our daily dumbass honorable mentions first. So with that in mind, Matt, play the graphic, please. That I believe. There we go. Hey, producer Matt's got a
yeah,
lot going on, guys. He's trying to monitor the YouTube situation. He's doing his best. But anyway, yes. So tonight's first honorable mention is Steve Bannon for apparently thinking that having Rudy Giuliani tell a story about himself and Rush Limbaugh would somehow end up being anything other than super fucking gross. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll just play the clip. Matt, please.
Do you have time for a funny story?
Yeah, we got about a minute.
I get this one done in a minute. So every once in a while, I was always his partner. So we'd always
yep,
ride together. He always wanted me to drive because he wanted to be smoking cigars. So
You know
One
what
day
killed
we're
him?
driving, and these
Yeah.
paparazzi are driving us crazy. They're taking pictures. They're taking pictures. They're taking pictures. And he said, Giuliani, what did you do now? They're all following you around. You know how I hate pictures taken. I know you're famous, but damn, can't you tell them to stay away? And he's like growling. And I say, you just come up to the green with me. Come on, come on. So
Everything's
on the
fine
green
so
is
far.
Michelle Wee, and she's getting ready to putt. Now, Michelle Wee is gorgeous. She's 6 feet, and she has a strange putting stance.
He also probably would have been
bends
about 19
all the
years
way
old at this
over.
point, which is important.
And her panties show.
Oh,
And
God.
the press was going crazy.
Just so
Look at
fucking
Bannon.
They were
gross.
following her all around because they were trying to take
Yeah,
pictures
even he's
of her
uncomfortable with
panties.
this.
Right.
I said, Roger, it's not
Roger.
me, it's not you. It's her panties.
Yeah.
Is that okay to tell that
listen to
joke?
this.
I'm not sure.
We
First of all, not a
already told
joke.
it, so I don't know.
Dude, so okay. First of all, the person who tweeted that out noted the fact that he says Roger in the story, but given the context on both sides of that story, it was clearly a story about Rush Limbaugh. I guess he just mixes up Rush with Roger Stone
it was
and whoever else.
There's somebody I found a picture from that day in that thread. It was like Roger Ailes was with them too.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah. So,
Jesus Christ.
so the context of this. Remember, Roger Ailes has been
Yes.
outed as a full-on pervert. Rush
Creep,
Limbaugh's had 4
pervert,
wives.
absolutely, yeah, right.
Rush Limbaugh has had 4 wives and once got arrested coming back in the country with an illegal Viagra prescription that wasn't his. So these are all famous perverts, right? And they were doing this golf tournament where they paid to play with a professional, and they got Michelle Wee, who at this moment, she was born in 89, so that makes her 31. She hasn't had her birthday yet this year, right? So she's 31 now, but at that point would have been younger. And
Yeah,
the paparazzi
Michelle she became famous and popular and successful as a teenager.
As a
in the
teenager.
golf world, yeah.
Yeah, so if there's a point where paparazzi are following around, this is probably her teen years when she was a phenom, right? So
Right.
they're taking pictures of her panty line, and Rudy Giuliani's laughing about it and giggling with a bunch of fucking 65-year-olds instead of telling her to, hey, your butt showing or whatever.
Man, when Steve Bannon is disgusted, when Steve Bannon is like visibly upset by the story you're telling, like, yeah. That's tough sledding there. I mean, look, just so everybody knows, he's only upset because he's like, oh, someone's gonna tweet this and it's gonna be a whole thing. Not like he gives a fuck, but still, the point is, even Steve Bannon knew this was a bad idea immediately.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
It's Steve Bannon who's like, it looks like the Mucinex guy when he's grossed out by something. You can fucking,
Yeah, I remember those commercials. He does look like that. Yeah.
Remember the toenail? He also looks like remember the toenail fungus, the anthropomorphic toenail fungus.
Anthropomorphic animated fungus or snot. Yes, that's Steve Bannon in a nutshell. So our next honorable mention, becoming a bit of a mainstay in the Daily Dumbass segment of our show, Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert, who is actually being honored tonight for a couple different reasons. So the first one is because of her contribution to a committee meeting, a congressional committee meeting on the subject of having firearms in congressional hearings. So with that context, play the clip, please, Matt.
But necessary that we lay down these ground rules that whatever your fetishes or feelings are about guns, you're not going to bring them into our committee room. You don't need them there for your own safety. Many of us feel like it threatens our safety, and that's just not going to be allowed. And that's entirely appropriate and unfortunately necessary, Mr. Chairman. So I support this amendment.
Here we go.
I support the rule, not the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to be recognized.
Yeah, you would.
Hang on. Look at it.
God damn it.
All right. So anybody that's only listening, we apologize, but there's no other way to convey this. She says it's on California Representative being very rational, and then you can hear her voice say, I would like to be recognized. It takes Zoom a minute to switch over to her. So there's a moment of silence there, and then it switches over to her, and what you see is just a literal arsenal of firearms. Yeah, there's a screenshot there. There's like 2 assault rifles crossed in a skull and crossbones type of fashion right behind her head. There's at least 1 handgun, a shotgun underneath that. I can't even count the number of guns she has on her. Also, what appears to be a bookshelf, by the way. So I appreciate that touch too. There are some books. I assume they're all, Ayn Rand type things or whatever, but most of her bookshelf space is taken up with heavy duty firearms.
Yeah, I mean, the shotgun's the one that makes me laugh because the other 2 are like putting like a nice design, and then she also, there's room here for another gun, so just like wheels just sort of crammed in this shotgun. And somebody was like, why are you decorating your room with shotguns? They're not just decorative; they're loaded and ready. Like, so, but you only got 2 hands, stupid. What kind of tactical situation you get into in your Zoom room? Yeah, I did these. All this stuff is just aesthetic flexing. It's conspicuous consumption, right? It's like taking a selfie on the beach.
Yes, of course.
But what theme we're going to come back to tonight is how extremely online conservatives are. They think their whole job is a shitpost, even when they're elected officials. So that's the world we live in now.
Yeah, so like we said, not the only reason we're honoring Congresswoman Boebert tonight. She also,
shitposting.
Yeah, she also this week came after Bill Gates after Mr. Gates posited that, in his opinion, every rich country, every wealthy country should be working on transitioning to synthetic beef because raising beef is very bad for the environment and just a lot of reasons, and they're getting close to being able to synthesize it on these higher levels. And he said, in his opinion, that's what we should be moving towards in the future. And this, Matt, if you have the screen grab, is what her response to that was. It's just a tweet from her with a picture of a big ass ribeye, and it just says, "Come and take it, Bill." And then after that, Lobels of New York, the steakhouse who took this actual picture, said, "We've reached out to Lauren about the unauthorized use of our photo, but haven't heard back yet. Twitter doesn't seem to have a way to report a post for copyright violations." So she takes a picture of a ribeye, says, "Come and take it, Bill." Because that's one of their favorite phrases. And it turns out like that's not her actual meat. She just like Googled really hitting ribeye on the internet and took an unauthorized picture from a steakhouse who was pissed off about it. So yeah, checking a lot of boxes.
She didn't even have a steak. She's
challenging
Bill Gates to come and
get
a steak she doesn't have.
Right.
Like, don't you have a fucking job? I don't understand what these people think being elected to public office is, or what they think Bill Gates is. Like, he just made a suggestion in like a podcast interview that if you try fake meat, if you like it as much, maybe cut out all the death and environmental damage. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I like a steak. I love steak. I love hamburgers. I like some beef sausage. But if I can have the same experience without killing something,
exactly. So on that note, and if anybody watching saw me live in the before times, in the few months leading up to this, y'all know that I have a bit about this, so full disclosure. But yeah, what do I care? The idea that like anybody would be weirded out by eating meat grown in a lab, it's like when I was a kid, I ate potted meat from my Uncle Bubbles' pantry or whatever, and squirrels that he shot. Like, I'll absolutely eat synthetic meat. I don't give a shit. Like, if it's like you say, if you have the same experience, if it tastes the same, why would anyone care? I don't understand it. But also, again, the caption, "Come and take it, Bill." Like, is this going to be the next thing that liberals are coming for, Mark? Like they're coming for your guns and your steaks and your hamburgers. So everybody look out.
Yeah, AOC fucked up and made that a meme. And the Green New Deal, we're going to take your cows and shit. So now everybody thinks it's going to happen. Like look at fake meat. I'm not going to be a test subject. I'm not going to go first. But once everybody has it and doesn't grow gills or whatever, I'll try it. And if I like it, it's good. Fucking who cares? I love the hills they're willing to die on. Literally, She'll fucking shoot. Come and take it. She'll defend her fucking stake. The point of a gun.
Producer Matt's pointing out it was a New York steak. That picture is from a New York steakhouse, and she's from Colorado. So I mean, that seems pretty offensive too, Mark. If you're a red-blooded, God-fearing Coloradan conservative, the idea that she went for a New York steak as opposed to a good homegrown piece of Colorado cow.
Yeah,
I don't know what she was thinking.
It's a downright scandal. She's eating liberal Jew George Soros steak. You know, she should be in trouble for that.
Yeah. All right. Our next honorable mention. These two dudes. Matt, you can put up the screen grab if you have it. Yes, here we go. Men in Florida posed as U.S. Marshals to avoid wearing masks for COVID. They were staying at a hotel. Two men are accused of pretending to be federal marshals and flashing phony credentials to get out of wearing facial coverings at a South Florida resort hotel. Walter Wayne Brown Jr., which seems very on the nose, just like it's one of those that's just a perfect name, Walter Wayne Brown Jr., except for the fact that he stayed long-term in a South Florida resort hotel. That's the only thing that fucks me up. He's 53, and Gary Brummett, who's 81, used this ruse to keep from having to cover their faces. So they committed, a felony just so they wouldn't have to cover their face up.
Yeah.
Brummett, when he went to the front desk, the manager asked him he asked him once to put a mask on, and Brummett pulled out a laminated card that said he was medically exempt from wearing a mask. And when the manager reiterated the request, he pointed to a badge he was wearing on his belt and said, "Do you know what this means? I'm a U.S. Marshal, and I can have you arrested if you force me to wear a mask." And who could argue with that, Mark?
Yeah, this unfolded over a course of days too. Like they repeatedly threatened the staff. Like the staff didn't call the cops at first, but like the third or fourth time, like, "Hey, buddy, put on a mask," and like, "I'm going to put you in my special U.S. Marshal anti-mask jail." They're like, "Okay." They call the cops just because they're being annoying, and now these guys are going to go to prison.
Right.
I don't understand these fucking people at all. It's a cloth mask. Shut the fuck up.
So I just reporting the facts here, y'all. On the subject of their masks, they were wearing, quote, authentic appearing circular badges. And those badges read Cherokee Nation Marshal. So I feel like if you are of a sufficiently white trash background, you know the tendency among our people to claim native ancestry for some reason. There's a famous joke. What do you call 16 rednecks in a room? A full-blooded Cherokee. So it's definitely a thing. So that really adds to the flavor, the sauce of this story.
When Tim McGraw was saying he was an Indian outlaw, he was really speaking on behalf of all of us. But it's not just like when the whole thing happened with Elizabeth Warren. Obviously, taking the DNA test was stupid, but every redneck immediately understood what would happen. She believed her meemaw. That's all that happened.
Yeah, right.
Like my dad always told us we were 1/6 shocked. I mean, the real sin there is maybe Liz should have her Harvard degree taken away or whatever. Yeah, for being that naive.
Real quick, just because you brought it up. Side note. This has always killed me. I heard this on like VH1, pop-up video behind the music or something like that when I was a kid, and I never forgot it because I thought it was so funny. I'm not saying this is true, and I don't have a source for it. I just remember hearing this. You mentioned Indian Outlaw with Tim McGraw. The story they told, because that was Tim McGraw's first big hit, and the story they told was that Tim McGraw kind of finagled his way into a meeting with a record label executive, illegitimately, sort of, and when he got in there, he played Indian Outlaw for him. So, like, he took this huge risk and got in there, and he pinned everything on Indian Outlaw. And that's just always been so funny to me. He was like, if I can just get Indian Outlaw in front of these people, then, it'll be a done deal. But, I mean, that was true, and it worked like a charm, and it was a massive hit. So obviously he was correct, but it's always been so funny. You picture that as like a scene in a movie. He's in the lobby, sweating bullets, nervous about this this meeting with a record guy, and he's walking in there knowing that his entire future, everything hinges on the song Indian Outlaw, which if anybody's watching, you don't know the song we're talking about. I'm surely most of y'all do, but if you don't, please look it up. It is hilarious and dumb, but slap for me when I was a kid. I loved it.
I just saw a news story the other day. Him and Faith Hill are selling the island they have in the Bahamas or whatever. So if that meeting doesn't go right, he doesn't have his own island, but it did, so he does, and that's
right.
that's how life goes.
Okay, so all right, next up on the honorable mentions, anybody who thought that you would be able to hunt mythological creatures in the state of Oklahoma without having a proper license. Matt, if you put the screen grab up whenever you have it. Yes, an Oklahoma state representative has proposed a Bigfoot hunting season, complete with Bigfoot hunting licenses. But he's meeting some pushback on that, with some people saying that creature is not officially recognized by, reality. But Matt, if you have that video, go ahead and play it whenever you have it, because I think it's funny.
It pretty much says what the story is. The funny part of the news coverage of it is how matter of fact the anchor's voice is. She's reading this thing. But this guy,
Justin Humphrey, wants Oklahoma to establish a Bigfoot hunting season. Humphrey introduced House Bill 1648 on Wednesday.
Under the bill, state officials would draft rules for the season, annual dates, and create any necessary hunting licenses and fees. If passed, the bill would go into effect on November 1st of this year. The next legislative session starts on February 1st.
Look, I have mixed feelings about this, because the first confusing part about it to me is that weed's not even legal in Oklahoma, so that's fucking amazing. This guy came up with this idea. Secondly, I mean, honestly, I'm for it. Like, if a bunch of dumbass, like, they're always white, these Bigfoot hunters, weirdos, want to come to your state as tourists to hunt Bigfoot, charge them some money for it. I put it towards textbooks. I don't give a shit. But,
sure.
But
it's Representative Justin Humphrey, and here's part of his rationale for it, Mark. He said, quote, "A lot of people don't believe in Bigfoot, but a lot of people do. Just like some people like to go deer hunting, while some people don't." Pretty much the exact same thing. You can understand, the one-to-one analogy there. But no, I mean, I'm with you. Hell, I mean, I hadn't thought about it that way, but I mean, you make a fair point. If people are willing to pay you to hunt for Bigfoot, then take it for more revenue.
But people are hunting Bigfoot just to look at him, right? To prove he exists. Like, you don't need you don't need a license to go look at deer. Are they actually trying to kill Bigfoot? Because it's a whole different type of Bigfoot hunter.
I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm not that up to date on the inner workings of the Bigfoot community or anything. But you talking about like people who hunt in Oklahoma and states, like, I think a good number of them would absolutely shoot Bigfoot immediately if they saw him. You don't think they would? If they're out there with a gun hunting and Bigfoot walks up, they're gonna shoot the shit out of Bigfoot, dude. Who else has got a Bigfoot mounted in their man cave? Nobody.
No.
Mark.
If a sane person saw a Bigfoot, they would absolutely fucking shoot it. The people out in the woods hunting for Bigfoot are insane, and they're not looking for it to shoot it. They're looking for it to be friends with it. So they want to be buddies and prove that they're tell their relatives they're right.
I feel like it's two different communities whose Venn diagram I'm sure overlaps some, but you got like Bigfoot enthusiasts, who, yes, they just want to catalog his existence and prove to the world their idiocy for disbelieving this for so long. But then you got people who are, just hunting otherwise and wanted to get a Bigfoot license just in case he shows up in the state of Oklahoma. And if he does, they're going to take his ass out, I think. I feel like maybe we spent a little too much time debating this particular subject, Mark, because of
I'll just say
the likelihood of it becoming relevant ever.
The only person I've ever heard of hunting Bigfoot to kill him was there's a great Sam Elliott movie called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then Killed Bigfoot. Right? Yeah. I think I might have butchered the name. That's something like that. It's a good movie, but I've never heard of anyone else trying to kill Bigfoot. But okay.
Okay, so our last honorable mention before we get into the big dog, Ted Cruz. Obviously, Rush Limbaugh, whatever. We all know what happened with him. But he's a dumbass for for making his life about himself instead of just about Donald Trump. Here's what Donald Trump had to say when he was giving his sort of eulogy-like remarks on Fox News when it comes to his good friend and longtime supporter, Rush Limbaugh.
Harris.
Touching.
What did Rush Limbaugh tell you after the election of November 3rd? What were those conversations like?
Well, Rush thought we won. And so do I, by the way. I think we won.
Broke his heart, Trey. Killed him.
And Rush
killed
thought
Rush.
we won. And he thought it was over at 10 o'clock, 10:30. It was over. And a lot of other people feel that way, too. But Rush felt that way strongly. And many people do. Many professionals do.
Professional people,
And
Mark.
I don't think that could have
Professional
happened to a
knowers
Democrat.
of things.
You would have
Many
had
of them,
you would have had riots
who
going all over
professionally
the place
feel
if that
things
happened
about
to a
stuff,
Democrat. We don't have the
they
same
feel the
support
same way. The same way that
at
Trump
certain
and
levels
his
of the Republican system.
dearly
But
departed
we have
friend
great
Rush
people
Limbaugh
as
did.
Republicans.
He's obviously heartbroken over losing his good buddy.
Yes.
I think. Do you remember when his brother died and he called into Fox and the eulogy he gave was about how big of a fan of him his brother was?
Wait a minute. His brother's not dead. He packed on all that weight, and he's serving as Trump's double right now.
Yeah. As we talked about
In the
on
underworld.
Tuesday's episode. Yeah. He's
So that's not
accused.
so bad. He knew his brother wasn't dead. He was actually coming to serve him in a covert op, So, well, yeah.
This
If y'all
is
didn't see
the-
the last episode, QAnon, they genuinely believe what I just said to be true.
Yeah. So I just love this man's ability to make other people's eulogy about himself. Like, it's like basically, what if you died and I stood up at your funeral? I was like, the great thing about Trey was how funny he thought I was. And by the way, I'm at Zany's Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah. All right, Mark, you know what? Why don't you, as we mentioned before, a guy, a bit of an adopted Texan, someone who lived there for years, fan of Dallas sports, lover of Texas, why don't you take us into the Ted Cruz conversation?
I do love Texas, and it's kind of frustrating watching how a lot of people talk about it because they act like, to a certain degree, we're all responsible for the government we have. But I like to remind everybody that we are, as a collective, are responsible for the death of like 2 million Iraqis and what kind of pain people should wish on us for just being born here. So a lot of people are mad at all Texans and think they deserve to freeze to death or whatever because they got shitty elected representatives. But so Ted Cruz, in the middle of all this, where there were like 4 million people without power the other day. So far, still about 400,000 people without power. A lot of people haven't gotten it back on, thank God. At least 20 people dead. I imagine that's a lot higher, but they don't count homeless people, and they haven't really because they can't count everybody because nobody's had phone service and shit, right? Mm-hmm. So Ted Cruz decided this would be a good time to go on vacation to Cancun. All right. And this went viral. This first picture, we got posted last night. Somebody noticed Ted Cruz in the airport and saw him getting on a plane to Cancun. Now, there was some argument whether or not that was Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz has gained weight at such a rapid pace that he doesn't look like he used to. People are like, that's not Ted Cruz. He's too heavy. He's wearing glasses. The internet did what it did and matched the girl with him to looking like his daughter and his wife looking like his wife. And Ted Cruz, you can't really see close up in that photo, but he's wearing a mask that he's been wearing around the Capitol with a picture of an AR on it that says "Come and take it." So that was definitely Ted Cruz.
Mark, go ahead, but I just want everybody to know Ted Cruz has an explanation for all this. It wasn't as bad as it looked.
Well, I would get to that just a second because that was after he got caught because he went radio silent for like 14 hours, which is usually not like him because just like our friend Boebert and all the other crazy right wingers in Congress and the Senate, he thinks his job is to post, and he hadn't owned anyone on Twitter in 14 hours, so he was obviously in hiding. And one thing I love about this is how confident Ted Cruz was. He could blend in an airport. But the motherfucker is so like Ted Cruz is not a normal looking person. Like he just doesn't look like a normal. Like his face looks like it was made out of mushy triangles.
Right.
It doesn't look like a regular.
It's not his face because as I referenced up top, it's a skin suit. He's like Edgar from the first Men in Black movie. Like he's but a soulless reptilian creature from another dimension wearing the skin of a regular human. That's why he looks as dumpy as he does. He's also cold-blooded. Okay, and cold-blooded cold-blooded entities don't fare well in situations like this. He had to, fly south for the winter. He needed the sun on a rock on the beach in Cancun. or the
Yeah.
very blood in his lifeless veins might cease to flow, you know. Also, producer Matt says, who hasn't wanted to show off their new mullet on a beach in Mexico?
Yeah,
I saw the
I
last
get it.
episode, we highlighted his mullet, if that's what you could call it. But yeah, he's just, you know, just putting himself out
Yeah.
there, Mark.
Little Jose Dirt action. But he needed a warm place to lay his eggs. I get it. He's got to release his egg sac.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, so this goes viral. He hides, hoping the internet will notice it's him. But like he's so weird looking. He gets noticed wearing a mask in an airport, catching a red-eye flight at a time when no one's looking at anyone. Right. So his plan was shitty from the beginning, but it goes viral. He goes radio silent, hoping people won't notice. He starts realizing his whole political life is falling apart. And so he catches a red eye, like a 6 a.m. flight. At 6 a.m. this morning, he booked a flight back. But he tried to act like he was always coming back today, and he's going to drop his wife and kids off.
Yeah,
And-
well, so let's play. Let's play his explanation clip, Matt. Perfectly reasonable.
Well, Texas is going through horrific storms, and millions of Texans.
Look at that mask. He switched masks.
Yeah, he did.
And our family was among them. We had no heat and no power. And
He's wearing a Texas flag mask for the podcast audience.
If they could take a trip with some friends, and Heidi and I agreed, so I flew down with them last night. Dropped them off here, and now I'm headed back to Texas.
Dropped him off.
Continuing
That's all he
to
was
work
doing.
To try to get the power on. What's happening in Texas is unacceptable, and a lot of Texans are hurting.
And then ending it with that, what's happening in Texas is unacceptable. But yeah, he claims that his daughters were taking a trip, and all he was doing was escorting them and dropping them off and coming back. So many things. First of all, his wife was also with them, who, as you pointed out in our outline, Mark, she's got multiple degrees, one of which is from Harvard. So I feel like she probably could have handled it. You know, escorting.
She's a VP at Goldman Sachs. She can get 2 kids in an airplane. The kids are 10 and 12. I've never known a 12-year-old kid to be like, Dad, I want to go to Cancun to the Ritz-Carlton. This whole fucking thing is bullshit.
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
Also, is he gonna? It's part of his to keep this story going. Is he gonna have to fly back down there on Saturday or whenever and escort them back? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he had to escort them down there only, and they're fine on the way back. Or now is he locked in to having to fly down there, pick them up, and turn around and fly right back just to sell his bullshit story? And also, like the luggage that he was packing around, that's for literally one night because he took it with him and brought it back. I don't know why I'm putting all this effort into proving that it's bullshit when literally any sane human being knows it's bullshit. But yeah, it's bullshit. Clearly, every single thing about it is bullshit.
So the cover story is now their house was freezing and the kids were cold and we had to get them out of town. That is obviously perfectly relatable, except I don't believe he fucking lost power. I don't believe it because rich people in Texas didn't lose power. My a friend of a friend, they just moved to Texas. He works in VC marketing or whatever. They got a little bit of money. He moved into the neighborhood where Elon Musk, Matthew McConaughey, and Joe Rogan all live. Guess what? They ain't lose a bit of power. So I don't believe Ted Cruz was even cold. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And this is why we talked about just how dumbass of a move this was up top. He's even losing, people on his same side of things. Like my cousin, Trey Gowdy, is not my cousin. That's not how cousins work. We have the same first name, not last name, and it's not even spelled the same way. But y'all know what I mean. Trey Gowdy, he ain't with it. Matt, you play the clip whenever you
I think it's a big deal. I mean, he never should have left. I mean, leaders are the first to pick up a difficult task and the last to put it down. They don't go to Cancun, and they don't blame their daughters for it if they do. So, yeah, I think it is a big deal.
He should be murdered. That's what I
agree with Trey.
See, that guy agreed with
That's
me.
what you got. All right, Byron.
Yeah.
A really, really bad idea. And also, Cruz is already under fire for his actions in early January anyway. So bad month for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever you end a panel with bad month for him, that's not where you want to be as a politician.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fox just getting raked over the coals by everybody right now is Ted Cruz. But this makes me think of that. It was Al Franken, I'm pretty sure, famous Al Franken quote about Ted Cruz where he said, look, I like Ted Cruz more than anybody else in Congress, and I fucking hate Ted Cruz. So, you know, nobody likes him, I don't think.
His whole staff this morning was leaking stuff against him. Like the report of him changing his plane ticket came from his office. Whoever he asked to change his plane ticket blew up his cover story. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So, like even Jesse Waters is probably the dumbest person on Fox News, and that's saying something. And even he was like, "Yeah, this is fucking stupid," right?
I mean, this is kind of day one stuff. If you're a politician, if there's a weather disaster in your state, you don't go on a tropical vacation.
And I know any.
I mean, when you put it that way, Jesse Waters, you know, yeah.
Like my dad ran a little construction crew, right? And like one thing he always said about being a boss was, you never ask another man to do something you're not willing to do, right?
Of course, right.
So
anybody should know that who's in a position of leadership, in my opinion. That's like, yeah, that's fundamental shit for being any kind of leader, in my opinion.
There are perks that come in. I've been in charge of very little shit in my life, but I always try to remember that, because there are perks that come with being a higher level, a little more money and status or whatever. But also, leadership is a form of service. You're volunteering to take a bullet. You're going to meetings no one else wants to go to, and sitting in through dumb shit they don't have to, right? So Ted Cruz is given this position as a U.S. senator. And there are people are saying, what is Ted Cruz supposed to do to fix this problem? There's tons of shit he can do. He has 6 constituent service offices that could be taking phones from clients. He has a bunch of rich donors. He could connect with people. He has leverage within the federal government to try to get more FEMA help. He has work he could be doing to help people. Beto's organization, I'm not a huge fan of Beto, but his organization has been calling old people sun up to sundown for the last 3 or 4 days, asking them if they have your heat on. If they don't, trying to get them a ride somewhere to go get a hot meal in a place to stay so they don't freeze to death. So why is Beto working harder than the guy he lost to, who's fucking taking a vacation? They all suck, man. They fucking suck.
Yeah, they do all suck. He's not the only one. Do you want to talk about some of the other Texas? We already mentioned Tim Boyd on Tuesday and telling his own constituents to basically go fuck themselves, saying if you expect the government to help you, then you're a piece of shit. Yeah, him and Ted Cruz, not the only ones. Who are some other notable examples, Mark, have been doing their thing down there?
Well, Rick Perry, we talked about the other day about why Texas's energy grid is the way it is. And it's basically so they keep it all within Texas borders, so not subject to federal regulations. So they can price gouge people who live in Texas. It's to fuck over their own citizens. That's the whole point of this, right? They claim to be about independence, but it's not it. It's like they take payoffs to fuck their own people. So Rick Perry said, where's dumbass Rick Perry? Perry says Texans are willing to suffer blackouts to keep feds out of power market. People are dying, right? Their houses are exploding with water damage. And this dumbass says this is worth it for freedom. And like, I don't know what I'd do if I was Biden right here, but I'd fucking go ahead and plug Texas into the power grid to save people's lives. And then when you lose the lawsuit later saying you should have done that, just eat it.
Dude, how many people have you ever met that even know or care at all about the status of their state's power grid as it relates to the federal infrastructure, or however the fuck you want to put this? Like you're saying, Texans are willing to suffer and be cold and go without food to keep their power grid from being federally regulated. How many average people even know what the fuck that means?
You literally only think about it when it collapses. That's the only time you think about it. It's the government's job to cover. You pay taxes and you pay your electric bill. Basic shit like public infrastructure is the government's responsibility. When it collapses, you fucked up, and you got to figure out how you fucked up and fixed it. That seems pretty straightforward to me. But no, it's all about it. The main thing I think about when I want to cook food is whether or not the electricity has freedom or not.
Right? Yeah, exactly. No one ever thinks about or gives a shit about that. Let alone none of them willing to put their lives on the line in defense of it.
And none of them believe the fake bullshit, because like when it comes down to the rubber meeting the road, when they realize how fucked they are, they stop. The governor issued an order banning the sale of natural gas outside the state. They're literally cutting off the free market to try to save their own political asses, because they can sell it to Texans at price gouge rates. Meanwhile, over in Oklahoma, go across the state lines, you can't price gouge because the federal government won't let you. Right. So like there's all these horror stories. I saw a viral story earlier. Somebody got a gas bill for this month. It's $200,000, just the normal gas bill. So they're obviously not going to have to pay that because that's embarrassing for everybody. But that's what the computer told it instead to charge when the market went through the roof.
Right.
But anyway, this is all nonsense. They're all assholes. And Ted Cruz just is the cartoonish emblem of all their failures and cowardice.
Right.
And if we had a video clip, Matt, that last would have him trying to give a press conference and being drowned out by people yelling. I think they're chanting shame, but I couldn't really make it out. So help me out here.
Whether the decision to go was tone deaf, look, it was obviously a mistake. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it. I was trying to be a dad. And all of us have made decisions.
I think they're just saying you suck,
when you
right?
got two girls who've been cold for two days and haven't had heater power, and they're saying, hey, look, we don't have school. Why don't we go? Let's get out of here.
Man, I wish when I was 12 years old, I could make my dad take me on an international vacation.
No shit. Right. Like, that's the sort of the subtext of even his excuses that he gives is like being able to just escort your daughters to fucking Cancun on a spur of the moment trip and then turn around and come right back. Like, just the level of privilege of that should be enough to piss anybody off, regardless of literally everything else about the story. You know, like, there's no part of this, not one single part of this, it doesn't make him seem like the biggest piece of shit in the world.
Maybe it was tone deaf, but everyone can relate to my stupid fucking daughter wanting to go to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun.
Yeah, my fucking whining ass weak-willed daughters, they needed to go to Mexico for a while, so what am I going to do? Yeah, just throwing everybody under the bus. So, all right, before we get into the comments and stuff here in a minute, I want to mention at least a couple of other things. One of them is Joe Biden made, he's known for gaffes. The man, he makes some gaffes. Well, he made a truly horrific gaffe yesterday or the day before. Matt, whenever you have the clip of you guys aren't going to believe this, what he said. It's astonishing and terrifying. And now that I've said all that, Matt, if you don't have this to play, it's going to be rough. So,
oh no, everybody knows I like kids better than people.
I saw a picture of you with your grandson recently.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
sickening.
In a normal world, that's somewhere in the radar of like Joe says the darndest things, where he knows I like kids more than adults. That's obviously what he said, but.
Right. Yeah, right. At worst, you would be like, he said kids aren't people or whatever, like something like that, and that's the extent of it. But not in QAnon world.
Your brain isn't big enough, Trey. You can't see that he just confessed to liking kids as food. Right? He said he didn't say I like kids. He say I like kids. Like it's a tone thing, right? So like unless in case you think we're making this up, here was Kayleigh McEnany, Kaki Makalaki, whatever you want to call her. Signing off the final notable quote from Joe Biden during his town hall. Everyone knows I like kids better than people, with the chin stroking emoji, right? And she knows what she's doing. We just spent 2 months as a country talking about fucking QAnon. And so Jake Tapper called her out for that. And she says, no, that's not what I meant. But Q heard her, right? The Q people heard her, and that went viral. And they're like, look, even Kayleigh knows that Joe Biden needs kids. If you have that screen grab, Matt, it doesn't, you don't need to see it. It's a bunch of people saying, obviously, this is proof.
Yeah, it literally makes, just like everything with QAnon, it makes no sense to anybody whose brain works. But yes, they're connecting Kayleigh Kaki Makalaki, as you put it, Mark, connecting her tweet because of the time she tweeted it, right? Because she tweeted it at 12:05, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And
12 plus 5 is 17. 12 plus 5 is 17. Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. They believe in numerology.
Also, that matches to Q1205, which is a picture of spirit cooker Marina Abramovich, who apparently she spirit cooks children in preparation for her pedophile overlords. And
spirit cooking is when they drink the adrenochrome from their brains to stay young. That's part of the ritual.
Well, there you go. Well, this lady, she does that. She's like top shelf spirit cooker, and I guess her her sort of exhibition number in QAnon's list of evidence is Q1205, and because Kaki Makalaki tweeted this thing about Joe Biden at 12:05, that means indisputably you could see how it's hard to argue that it was really a reference to this noted spirit cooker person.
Yeah.
That's all real. Like, it's so, like, I almost have to remind myself when we get into this shit and start talking about it, it's like, that's all actually real, and real people really think all that stuff that I just said is real. That's I don't know. It'll never stop blowing my mind, man. It's so crazy.
Do you ever think there's anything we believe that's crazy? Like we talk about, we're like, just mention the earth be around, and somebody who knows the truth is like, man, these guys are fucking off.
Well, I've heard a lot of people say, make the analogy or the comparison, like, well, it's not that surprising. Think about how fucking crazy all of the religions are when you really think about it. You know, think about how crazy the Bible is and all this stuff. But I don't. To me, and I'm a known Bible hater. I'm totally a-religious. Didn't grow up with it at all, and have made no secret about that. But I feel like the Bible and all that stuff, I don't look at it the same way, because it dates back from a time when we didn't know literally anything about anything. And people didn't know shit about how anything worked. And all these things that seem like crazy explanations now, back then, they believed everything they believed was lunacy, almost. And then it gets made into dogma and passed down through the generations. And so there's, like, to me, there's an explanation for that lunacy. But brand new lunacy like this is a completely different story to me. SS 1964 says they do eat cake shaped like humans, though. LOL.
I mean, yeah, I've eaten a king baby cake on Fat Tuesday or whatever, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the comparison, obviously Q has become something like a religion, but I mean, for whatever reason, believing something magical happened a long time ago seems more realistic to people than something.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Moses might have been full of shit, but like, it's been baked in for a couple thousand years. So like, but even he wasn't like alleging the burning bush stuff it was a little like, okay, Moses, but he made up some rules. Don't kill people. That seems fine. That's way weirder than Q shit.
Did you know about this, Mark? The teacher comments and says, Boebert missed an opportunity to use a pic of a steak and a gun. She owns a gun-themed restaurant in Colorado.
Yeah, so all her she owns a restaurant. How she became a little mini celebrity in her little town was she has a restaurant where all the employees open carry. So you make $2 an hour waiting tables at Lauren Boebert's restaurant. In order to do that, you have to equip yourself with $500 in equipment and get a carry license. Or maybe open carry is just purely legal. Maybe you don't need a license in Colorado. But before this, one thing she was most famous for was her restaurant got in trouble because she served a bunch of bad pork sliders because she didn't bother to fix her refrigerator and gave like 30 people diarrhea and got hit by the health department. So that's her business model, was giving people diarrhea using meat. And now she's daring people to come take her meat, which they already did once. The health department fucking shut her down for a little while. So that's funny.
Here's Natalie Nichols. We know Natalie, Mark. Hey, Natalie, I need your advice. She says, what is the acceptable time to start drinking in a polar vortex post-insurrection and mid-pandemic? I think it was
last March,
12 months ago. Yes, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Roughly 13 months ago, that was the appropriate time. And if you didn't then, the second best time is today. It's like that old, old proverb.
I believe Natalie's in Texas, so glad your power is on, Natalie, and staying warm. Yeah. I mean, why would you stop drinking right now? Like, I mean, it's like it's weird. It's weird to be like 10 in the morning. You're looking at a bottle. It's like, I mean, I'm not going to, but I don't have a reason not to. Yeah.
Lauren Hyman says, Mark actually just touched on it. I think the question is, when do you stop drinking? Yeah, depends on what happens in the world. Am I right?
Yeah. 6 weeks after getting the first vaccine is when I'm going to stop.
There you go. Right. Obviously, we touched on it, but didn't really cover Rush Limbaugh's death because, you know, who cares? Or not, you know, obviously it's momentous regardless of how you feel about him. But I mean, yeah, what else is there to say? It's that famous, is it Mark Twain or is that a fake Mark Twain quote? You never know with the internet. The quote that says, shit, what is it? You should never speak ill of the dead, but I've read many obituaries with great enthusiasm or great enjoyment or something like that. I just butchered the shit out of that, but y'all know what I'm talking about.
If he didn't say it, he should have. It's a good quote. I mean, look, we talked before, like I in public. Look, our text thread was pretty lit, but I'm not gonna. I don't like the guy had a family and he's a human being, and like death's a tragedy because not as a person robbed of all their future experiences, but they're robbed of any chance to atone or to learn from their mistakes, right? Rush was never going to learn from shit, so that part, or atone for any of it. And as far as like, don't speak ill of the dead thing, this has been around the internet, but he had a whole segment on his show where he would play funny music and read off the list of all the people who died of AIDS. That's what he thought was funny. So I don't really care. You and I work in comedy, so we're joke sociopaths, and I don't really, I don't really subscribe to don't make fun of dead people thing because I hope when I die, I hope it's in a funny way that brings people some joy. I hope I fucking fart myself to death falling out of a hot air balloon or something that goes viral, and you guys have a good day. Yeah.
I also hope you die that way, Mark. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I'd be giggling all the way down.
Yeah, Marnie Carlson says it's Clarence Darrow, and I actually looked up in the middle saying that yes, that's one of those. Again, Mark Twain and Abraham Lincoln. The internet has misattributed so many quotes to both of them, and I did say I thought it might have been misattributed, but yeah, it was. But either way, yes. Yeah,
like, there's
producer Matt says lots are correcting your quote, Trey. I know. I'm sorry. That's like I said, I did even say I thought it might not be correct when I said it, but yes, thank you all for informing me correctly. I appreciate it.
So in general, like there's a few people you could say are some of the most destructive people in the history of America. Rush is in somewhere because he showed, once the fairness doctrine went away, he showed a whole world of shithead grifters what was possible. Mm-hmm. And so Glenn Beck, Donald Trump is just what would happen if an AM talk radio guy got elected president. Pence was an AM talk radio host before he got elected to Congress or before he was governor or whatever. All the like what Lauren Boebert's trying to do is aspiring to be Rush. Same as when Ted Cruz owns the libs. All these people, like it ruined everything. I think probably one of the most when humanity writes its epitaph, the most dangerous, the most destructive person in the history of the world is probably going to be Rupert Murdoch. And once billions of people die of climate change, and Rush was basically showed Rupert Murdoch what he could do by owning right-wing media properties. So,
yeah. Dave Adams says we have to remember that people die every day in America, and in parentheses, that's a Rush Limbaugh quote. Which, yeah, it sounds about me like Mark just said. He used to laugh at everybody that died of AIDS every day. So I mean,
he was still using his radio show to tell people that smoking tobacco doesn't cause lung cancer in 2015. Want to fucking guess what he died of, Trey?
Yeah. Lung cancer caused by smoking tobacco. Like his buddy Rudy said earlier, he couldn't even drive a golf cart because he was too focused on smoking cigars.
Yeah.
So yes, repentant. Y'all keep hitting us with whatever, Matt, but I wanted to, and not to just make it a total footnote, but I wanted to mention it either way. Some actual positive news, at least in my opinion. The NASA Perseverance rover landed on Mars today. I love this type of shit. I wish I've always been a big proponent of giving NASA way more money than we currently do. This is what Rob Manning of the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory said about it. When we put our arms together and our hands together and our brains together, we can succeed. That's what NASA does. This is what we can do as a country. On all the problems we have, we need to work together to do these kinds of things and make success happen. And I know it sounds a little trite or whatever, but it's just nice to be reminded of actual positive things that can result in, competent human beings collaborating toward a, shared goal. So go NASA.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I always when I end up arguing with other leftist liberals about NASA, because I'm a big fan of NASA too, and I like my general thing is like when I was a kid, like I remember my mom crying when the Challenger blew up. Like astronauts were nationally known heroes. Like we had trading cards and shit. Like I was really sad 2 summers in a row when I didn't get into space camp. Yeah. They're just not public stars like that anymore. Now, I mean, I don't know what filled that role, but like it restores faith and trust in government when you can do big cool shit like that everyone gets to root for. And like, and it would. And a government that can land a probe on Mars and send people to the moon, which we can't even do anymore, you can trust that government to run health insurance, right?
Yes, I agree completely. Brandy Ray Sheffy says NASA, yes. Space Force, no. I mean, yes. So obviously, just trying to turn it into a fucking bullshit space war. As a pilot, like space races, Mark, not space wars, But no, I've always been very defensive about the money spent on space exploration too, for a lot of reasons. Everything you said, but also the other scientific advancements that came out of the space race is kind of like ancillary, like byproducts that were huge. Like just a lot of great shit comes from it. Like you said, that engenders faith in the government. Anything that makes children give a shit about science, and math and all that stuff. There's a lot of great things about NASA that makes it worth spending money on, especially compared to a lot of the shit we do spend money on. But
I mean, like one thing I find really frustrating about SpaceX is doing some cool shit, but also people need to understand that SpaceX is a defense contractor. Like they're still funded by the government, right? So when NASA invented a lot of shit, we got GPS. Like when you drive your car around, those are American government satellites you're using to navigate your car.
Right.
The internet, Tang, right? Huge advances in technology. Those were owned by the people, so they got socialized. Whatever Elon Musk invents with our tax dollars, Elon Musk owns. The gains from it are not being socialized, and that's what fucking pisses me off about it. So I wish we'd be trying to send a manned mission to Mars instead of Elon Musk trying to send a manned mission to Mars, because I want to see the cool shit that would accomplish, even though I want to fix Earth and I don't want to fucking go live on Mars. So, yeah.
Right. So we're getting some comments about Her Majesty Queen Dolly Parton, who has continued her lifelong string of awesome moves, in my opinion, by requesting that Tennessee lawmakers remove a bill that would place a statue of her at the Capitol. Beside all the ones of Nathan Bedford Forrest and all the other shit we have at the Capitol right now. In terms of statues, state lawmakers wanted to build a statue of Dolly Parton, and she herself has asked them to not do it. She said, given everything that's going on in the world right now, I don't think putting me on a pedestal is appropriate at this time. And that's just, that's just how she rolls.
I mean, you and me have argued before. We did a piece for one of our old jobs for South and Off about like how we should replace all the Confederate statues with Dolly statues. And I think we're absolutely right on that. But also, we can probably wait till she's passed when it won't feel so gross to her to be turned into a golden calf. But yeah, she's doing about as good as any very well off person can be. She donates books to kids,
and also I should have said she says part of that statement. Maybe down the road or whatever, if people still thought it was appropriate, then sure. But she just didn't think that it was the right thing to do right now. Denise Kipstol.
Trey, don't even try, please.
Denise Kipstol.
Denise K.
I don't know. I think it's probably close. I hope it's close. Denise Kipstol says we are unworthy of Dolly Parton, and yes, Lord knows I agree. Let's see. All right, just about finishing up. Just as a reminder, as always, with all our recent shows, we'll remind y'all starting in March, we're going to go down to just Tuesdays with the perhaps naive hope that there will be less insanity to cover each week, and also that we can, just pour more into that one episode and keep from having to worry about scheduling conflicts in the future. Just seems like the right move. So that's what we're going to do. But for the rest of February, we will be here Tuesdays and Thursdays, including next Tuesday, February 23rd. So, yeah, come back and join us. We'll see what's happened. I'm Trey, and that's Mark.